Hey folks, here always reviews. You're watching our video review of the SAST Mini Digital Home Theater. This is the modern equivalent of a PMP or a pocket video player, which was pretty popular a few years ago but has been now phased out by a lot of phablets, tablets, and smartphones. However, this thing retails for under $50, which is extremely inexpensive and comes in a multitude of colors and also promises to deliver a hi-fi video and audio experience. It has a 7-inch TFT LCD display with a 800 by 480 resolution, so not exactly HD by today's standards, but it does a good job of viewing back your videos. It also can be used as an ebook reader, a radio, an MP3 player, and the list just goes on and on. There's a built-in SD card slot, or rather a micro SD card slot, and you can find it directly online through Amazon.com. Checking out the box here, a pretty simple presentation. Some basic specs can be found on the sides. We have a red version here for review purposes, and on the very back you can see some more info. This is also marketed in the Asian market, or in China, so this is why some of the characters here are in Chinese. If we open this up, on the inside you have access to a quick warranty guide / instruction manual. This is actually very important, so make sure you don't lose it. Now, some versions of the SAST PMP video player will come preloaded with some songs and MV music videos. This particular version indeed has a lot of songs and videos pre-included. In fact, it has over 1,000 songs loaded onto the micro SD card. And the first song on here is actually Gangnam Style by Psy. So all the songs on here are either in Chinese or in Korean, which is a bit unfortunate. However, you can purchase the variant of this PVP without the micro SD card that contains all the songs and the MVs preloaded, and then install your own songs and your own videos. Over here we have the PVP or the PMP unit. Take a look at that in a moment. There's also a mini USB cable for charging and syncing. This is not micro USB, but the standard that was used a few years back, so it's not the latest kind of in that technology. But taking a look at the actual unit itself, you can see it's pretty shiny and very similar to some radios that we reviewed recently that were promised also to deliver hi-fi experience. They were basically just a radio unit, and obviously this one does a lot more. But however, the design language is quite similar. We have gold keys which are accented, they're tactile and pretty responsive. Over here we have all the numerical controls from 1 down to 10, so I can tap on these keys to create different song selections, such as 1000, and the 1000 song on the list can be looked up in the little pamphlet that came with it. And of course you can program your own if you want to install your own micro SD card. Over here I have access to controls. They are in Chinese for some reason, which is a bit odd. I believe the English version that you can get here in the States should be in English, but I'm not exactly sure. There's one for going back, which is going back into the main menus. You can go up and down. This is navigational controls. You also have access to going back to the menus, looking at your videos, your images, your songs, and then selecting OK as well. The very top features the power on-off switch, which also dubs as the volume controller. Here is a 3.5mm jack for listening to music without using the built-in speaker, and by the way, the speaker on here is super loud and stereo on the very back. So it's almost like a mini boombox PVP, so it's a mashup between those concepts. Here is the micro SD card. It uses a SanDisk 8GB capacity. There's also another volume knob on the side there. It does essentially the same thing, so that's kind of a bit odd. This is the antenna for the radio, and the reception is quite strong. It is a hi-fi radio. The sides feature access to a USB socket. If you want to plug in a thumb drive with songs and images and videos preloaded, it will read it just nicely. There's also an LED indicator for charging, the mini USB port. The bottom features a seal that tells you this is an authentic product. There's also rubber feet, which prevents the unit from sliding around on a surface or a desk. And that's basically it. The back also features a handlebar for carrying it around. It also dubs as a kickstand for propping the unit up at a comfortable angle for watching your videos and movies, and this is the stereo speaker. A little bit on the tinny side of the spectrum, but we'll show you guys the audio quality in a moment. There's also access to the door, which contains a battery. It actually uses a rechargeable battery. It's the same thing again as the dedicated radio that we reviewed a few months ago. It's a 3000 milliamp hour capacity that will last you, I would say, for about 2 weeks before you need to recharge it, depending on how much you use it. Again, unlike some PMPs by major retailers these days, it doesn't come with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, so it doesn't drain power as fast. Taking a look at the user interface next, we have access to music files. You can play movies, photos, FM radio. There is a voice recorder on here in addition to a basic text or ebook reader, even though I still recommend getting a ink display for ebook reading since it can strain your eyes on a traditional LCD. There's also the ability for you to check out a file explorer and of course go through settings. Battery status is on the top right hand corner. There is your volume settings over here, and right now it's showing that we have an SD card inserted. Everything else is pretty easy to use. The only thing I don't don't really like is navigation up and down, left and right, just because you have to use these keys. It's not as intuitive as a four-way navigation toggle. So for example, if I wanted to go down, for instance, I have to press on this, and this goes through this in a cycle-like view as opposed to an actual four-way D-pad, which I think they could ultimately have fit in down below here. So something they could have considered maybe for a next generation model. Checking out the music first, if I wanted to go in, the music player on here is pretty simple and basic. There's an equalizer functionality and also support for a cover art if you want to load that onto your SD card, but currently we don't have any music files per se to show you guys. However, the quality here is okay, it's decent. It's not as good as a audiophile grade MP3 player, of course, although you can plug in your own headphones or use the speakers in the back to blast out your own music. Let's go back here. This is the back key down below. The next screen here is movies, and this is the one that's loaded with over 1,000 files, which is the MVs or music video. So there we go, that's basically how it looks like. Let's go back home again. So again, you can play up to 720p HD resolution video files on this thing, and it does a fairly good job. There are some limitations. Frame rates seem to be pretty good, and viewing angles on the display are better than I expected. And I'll show you guys a brief video clip with a Chinese song just to prevent any copyright claims. Let's tap on, let's just say number 5. Maybe perhaps number 3. And so this should give you guys a brief idea. So this is going to be in Chinese. The speakers on here are a little bit tinny, although they can get extremely loud. This is on the minimum setting for the volume right now, but if I tune it all the way up, it fills up even large spaces like a living room, or if you're purchasing this for the elderly, for exercising purposes, it fills up an entire space as well. So it's definitely extremely loud, and again, the image quality is not bad at all. Again, the stereo speakers can be heard on the back. So that's basically how that works, and you change your volume on the top there. Let's go back home. Taking a look at some other features on here, we can check out the FM radio really quick. The Photo Explorer is basically the same thing as you would expect from the video experience. The screen here is pretty good. It can act as a digital photo frame. You can set things up, and then it will play back a slideshow. Right now, we're struggling to find a channel. Let's try to get a better reception there. I'm going to tap on this a few seconds. So it seems to have found a channel here, so you don't have to plug in your own headphones for this to work. There is a built-in antenna, and once a channel has been received, it will do a pretty good job again. The speakers in the back are very, very loud. So that's the function there. Let's go back home. And the voice recorder, the microphone on here is not noise cancelling, so if you're in a louder environment, it doesn't do as good of a job. However, if you are recording basic memos and you want to take this with you when you're traveling, it's a good function on here that is always an extra that we like to see. eBook reader, again, it supports basic text files, and it's in black and white. You can't really do too much in terms of PDF files or anything like that, so I wouldn't really recommend using this feature too much. It's very basic, very rudimentary, and again, a eBook reader would do much better, even though the display on here is very large. So I would recommend getting a e-ink or black and white monochrome display for doing more text. At the end of the day, I still think the SAST personal multimedia player is a niched product. These days, I think people rather purchase a tablet computer or even use their smartphones if they wanted to play back music and maybe even videos or text files, rather than going out and purchasing something separately. However, I can certainly see this replacing a digital photo frame because it has an integrated battery, the viewing experience on the screen is decent, and it also has a very loud speaker on the back. So it's almost like the next generation model of a digital frame with some extra features built in there, like a radio as well as a text explorer. But overall, it's not the strongest PMP we've seen either. However, the redeeming quality here is that price point, which is under $50, and I think that's a very compelling price to pay if you do need something like this. Perhaps this might be good if you're planning on maybe listening to radio and taking it to the gym for exercising purposes with other people. It also might be good for the elderly or for children. To learn more information about this product, be sure to read our full written review. This has been our video. Thanks for watching your OS review.